we had a bunch of milk chocolate bars left over from Halloween, like 1.5 pounds. Not being milk chocolate people ourselves, I set out to add a little bit of edge to them, have a little fun with them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to temper the chocolate. And so I've broken up the 1.5 pounds of chocolate. And I'm going to do this in a double boiler, but not on boil, okay? I'm going to do this with just hot water down there. If you bring it up and you use steam, the problem you're going to run into is that it's going to reach temperature too quickly. So I got it in here, I got it on the stove, it's sitting in a little bit of water, okay, and I put the first pound of it in here, and I'm just going to pay attention to this and take my time. You know, this could take 10 or 15 minutes, but you want to do it. You're going to take your time. You want to bring it up to about 105 degrees Fahrenheit and not more than 110. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then we'll come back. I'm not going to make you watch. Okay, so the temperature reached 105 degrees. I'm going to take it off the heat. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to start adding in the other 1/3, so the other ½ pound of the chocolate. And I'm going to add it in a little time. I'm going to vigorously mix. I'm going to watch the temperature. I want the temperature to come down to about 84 degrees. If I overshoot that, I can always stick it back over here in the warm water and you know, and just kind of get it back up to that temperature that I need. And I've got my little thermometer right here. Okay, and a very, very important part of this, by the way, is making sure that you don't get any water whatsoever, even a few drops, into the chocolate, because it'll seize up on you. So you're working with water, but you got to be careful with the water, and you got to stay away from it. Now, one of the things that comes up is, why are we tempering the chocolate? Well, what it does is it creates a stable cocoa butter crystals, and so you get this really nice glossy finish. You know, it's going to have a nice little snap to it. You don't get the dry, crumbly spots when it dries. That kind of pops right out of the mold, and it's pretty stable at room temperature, so it'll be less likely to melt on you. So I'm looking at the temperature here. I'm still doing okay. I'm at 91, so I'm going to keep mixing this in. All right, now, and so what's going to happen is I'm going to come back in a bit. I'm not going to make you watch this whole process, but that's the idea. You keep adding a little time, you keep melting it, watch the temperature. If it gets below 84, give it a little bit of heat, you know, bring it back up again, and then when I've got all of this melted in, we'll go on to the next step. All right, so now I have it down to 84 degrees. The chocolate is all completely melted. I'm going to bring it up to its working temperature. The working temperature is 89. So I'm going to put that back over this thing of water. I'm going to keep stirring it, but while I'm doing this, I'm also going to add the extra flavors that I want to add. So what I've got here is about a ½ teaspoon of sea salt. Put that in, and I'm going to keep stirring, get that sea salt nice and mixed in there. I've got a similar amount, about a ½ teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So that's going to go in here too. Salt and pepper, are really good companions to chocolate. I'm going to mix that all up. And then the final thing I'm going to add to this is I'm going to add some instant espresso coffee. So, and it's very fine what I did. I put it in a little mortar and pestle. You can find another way to do this. I wanted to make sure it's very, very fine. Why is that? Because it won't dissolve. Okay, the crystals of coffee will not dissolve in the chocolate. So if I don't want to have little pieces of coffee, of instant coffee, kind of making a little crunch in there or something like that, then what I want to do is go ahead and put this in. And oh, look at that. I'm just like, I was aiming for 89, just about. Okay. All right, I didn't want to go over 91. It was important not to do that. So now I've got this as, I've got it where I want it. It's at its working temperature. So let's clear the decks here with some of this stuff and do some things with it. Let me get rid of this water just in case we don't want to have any chance of getting any water on this. So I got a couple of different things I'm going to try to do. Let's grab a sheet pan here. Okay. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use a mold. So here, this one mold I have, here's a nice mold. This mold is little cars, little Porsche 911s. And so what I'm going to do then, let me grab something like a spoon, a big spoon or something like that. Maybe this one will be fine actually. Okay. It's dry. Again, make sure it's dry. I'm going to take this out. And let's go ahead and put some of this in the molds. So I just scoop some out, and I'm just going to pour it on top. I don't have to be too, I'll show you why in a minute, why I don't have to really worry about if I get it all kind of all over the mold. I'm just going to put in enough that I can fill all this mold up, and then I'm going to use this offset spatula, and I'm just going to kind of make sure that all of those little molds are filled. Just like that, and then if I have extra, right, I just put that on. I'm going to scoop that back off. I'm just going to scoop the extra back off and put it back in my bowl. So here I'm making little chocolate cars, right? I want to do that. And it's okay if you have a little bit over like that, that's fine. You'll just, when you plop the things out of the mold, you can plop those things off. So there's one, there's a set of cars. Let me do something else here. I have another mold here. This one is I'm a little Porsche thing here. So this one has got little Porsche emblems in it. So I'm going to put some of that in here. And I'll just pour that over the top. Do the same thing and make little Porsche crests like that. All right, and this stuff should pop right out of these silicone molds here. So I'll put that. I'm going to do the same thing with my offset spatula, and I go ahead and do that. Then I spread. And then the last thing I'm going to do actually is, so another thing you can do is you can make like bark. They call it chocolate bark. Well, that you just kind of take the chocolate and you spread it on a non-porous surface. So the extra chocolate that I have, I'm going to kind of turn it into a chocolate bark. And when I say non-porous, is like if you want it to be smooth, you want the final result to be smooth. You don't want it to be like if you put it on wood or something like that. So I'm just going to take all the rest of this that I can gather out with this, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that right on the surface of this cookie sheet, just like that. And we're just going to let that sit there, spread it around, and it's going to be kind of like a chocolate bar. So there's a few things I can do that I've just done with that. Now, what's the end game here? The end game is you just got to leave it alone. You got to leave it alone, and you have to let it set at room temperature. You can't force this. It's going to take time before they set. Just leave them there. Let them do that. And we'll come back later and we'll take a look at the final product. See you in a bit. So they're all done. Now I did forget to mention one step, which is when you put it in a mold like this, you do need to kind of shake and settle them down a little bit. And I did do that before they set. That just helps get the air out of it so that you get a little, more solid chocolate and it doesn't break up on you. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's interesting, and we talked about this, these are Hershey chocolate bars, right? Milk chocolate bars from Hershey. And it turned out, right, that wasn't quite so easy to deal with, was it?
No, there's like an emulsifier in it that is a little extra different from like baking chocolate or melting chocolate or whatever.
And one of the things it does is it allows them, as a purveyor of chocolate to the general public, it allows them to reduce the cocoa butter content. So it saves them money. It did make the tempering process a little bit more challenging. You had to be really, really careful. It did turn out okay though, I think, right? I mean, you can look at them. They look pretty good. Yeah. It was a bit of a challenge. These were interesting. these crests. They're pretty thick.
Yeah, that's a lot of chocolate for one hunk.
Well, there was an experiment on my part because this is actually an ice cube mold, not a candy mold. So you'd think these would make great ice cubes, right, in a drink or something like that.
Now, if you made filled candies, you could maybe...
That's true. I might be able to do that or something like that. But at any rate, they did actually turn out okay. But what do you think taste-wise?
Well, this definitely amps up the flavor from your typical Hershey's milk chocolate bar. You get a lot of heat from the cayenne, and
Is it a lot of?
I think it's present.
Okay.
Right, it's definitely present. That's the first flavor you get with the chocolate, and then there's that little saltiness with it.
Yeah, from the sea salt.
From the sea salt.
Yep.
And I think, as you said, the coffee doesn't like hit you in the face, but you'd miss it if it wasn't there.
Right, it's that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, folks, that's how we got rid of our extra collection of Hershey bars from the Halloween candy. Just to make, like I said, we're not really like milk chocolate people. Wanted to do a little bit something with them. So here we gave them a little bit more flavor, a little bit more edge. It was fun.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Okay.